Receiving the records. Once we receive the records from the carrier, we need to take care to preserve them as evidence. This section will take a look at how we will receive records from the phone company and what to do with them once we receive them to ensure they will be admissible in court. The carriers will provide the records on a CD through snail mail, attached to an email, or as a download through one of the law enforcement portals. Obviously, email and download are far faster than a CD through the mail, but some courts require submission of the records as evidence on a CD along with the affidavit of custodian of records. Ideally, we would receive the records through email or download so we can begin working on them as soon as possible, and then we would receive another copy of the same records on a CD through the mail. Regardless of how the records are received, we need to make sure we preserve unchanged original files as evidence and work only on copies. In this module, we will cover mail, email, download, and organizing the records. Mail. Receiving the records on a CD through the mail is the best way to receive the records from an evidence point of view. It's easy to copy the records to a computer for processing while maintaining untouched originals on the CD as evidence. The CD can be checked into the evidence room and maintained undisturbed until trial. Never alter the original records on the CD. Copy the files from the CD to your computer to work on. The originals are the evidence. When we receive the records by email, we can copy the records into a case file. We should not use these records for analysis. A second copy should be made and renamed as working copy. Perform all analysis on the working copies. The originals should be left unchanged. Depending on your department's policy, you may want to copy the original records to a CD and submit it to the evidence room. We should have requested the carrier send us the records on a CD through the mail. We can follow up with a call to the carrier to confirm that the CD and affidavit are in the mail. Download. Records downloaded from the carrier's law enforcement portals can be treated like emailed records. Many times the records will come in zip files. The zip files provide an excellent way to preserve the original records. If your jurisdiction requires an original CD and you receive the records by email or download, you can begin working on the records immediately. Once the record CD arrives, verify the records on the CD are the same as the records received by email or download. If you accidentally modify the original records, delete them or rename them as working copies and obtain another copy of the originals. You can do this through the attachments in the original email or the CD, or download them from the law enforcement portal again. If these options aren't available, you can contact the carrier for another copy. Organize the records. Make sure to organize the records. Being the only officer in a department with a unique skill and having that skill in demand is great. But at some point, we want to go on vacation or leave our departments, and one of our colleagues may need to access the records. It's no fun to get a call from a prosecutor needing records while out of state on vacation. So, storing the records in an organized fashion and letting colleagues know how to access them is extremely important. I recommend having a file for the case on your computer. Inside the case file, have files for individual phone numbers. Inside the phone number file, have files for original records and working copies. Here's the file tree for the system I use. Inside the computer documents, I have a folder for cell phone records. Inside that, I have folders for years. Inside the folder for the year, I'll have files for each case. Inside the folder for the case, I'll have folders for each phone number. Inside the folder for the phone numbers, I'll have folders for original records and working copies. Another issue is where to keep the records. Keeping the records on our work computer is fine, but we need to have a backup. Keeping copies on a network-attached storage drive is great if your department has one regularly used for digital evidence. If a NAS drive is not available, a USB external hard drive is a good choice. Make sure to use a quality hard drive. An advantage to using an external hard drive is that we can air-gap it or remove it from the network when not in use and prevent data breaches or loss through network intrusion. We can prevent data breaches and network intrusion if we do not store the records on our computers and only work from the hard drive, or if we disconnect the work computer from the network. If you choose to work from an external hard drive, I highly recommend you have an additional external hard drive for backup. Depending on your department's policy, you may want to make a CD for the evidence room. Make separate CDs for the original records and the processed evidence. A few points to remember: organize the records, make a CD for the evidence room, and do not modify the originals. The originals are the evidence.